V8 engines, big power, big promise, but not always big success. While some V8-powered cars are legends, these three old V8 disasters are the stuff of automotive nightmares. From poor performance to frustrating reliability issues, these cars made V8 enthusiasts rethink their love for the engine. Ready to discover the three worst V8 cars you've probably never heard of? Hold on tight, these rides are best left forgotten. The 1970-1973 Ford Torino Cobra 7.0L V8 is one of the more curious examples of muscle car ambition gone wrong. A car that looked like it could dominate, but instead became a textbook case of missed opportunities and mechanical shortcomings. When it was first introduced, the Torino Cobra was the epitome of American muscle, with a stunning visual presence and a beastly twice 7.0L V8 engine that promised an exhilarating driving experience. Ford had visions of building a competitor that could go toe-to-toe with the likes of the Busch Chevelle SS and Plymouth GTX, but the reality of this car fell far short of its potential. So powerful engine, weak foundation. At the heart of the Torino Cobra was its 7.0L V8, which on paper delivered 335 horsepower and 445 lb of torque. This was a car built to be fast, and it certainly had the numbers to make enthusiasts salivate at the prospect of roaring down a straightaway. The Torino Cobra's power figures were on par with some of the best American muscle cars of the era, and the sheer size of that engine was enough to create an imposing presence wherever it went. However, despite its impressive stats, the Torino Cobra's engine was plagued by reliability issues. One of the most common and costly problems was the engine block, which was prone to cracking under stress. The engine, while powerful, was not built to endure the high revs and intense acceleration that many owners expected from a car with such a hefty engine. This led to a situation where owners were constantly faced with expensive repairs and engine rebuilds. What should have been a raw, unfiltered driving experience quickly became an expensive and frustrating ordeal, tarnishing the car's appeal. Suspension and handling nightmares. While the Torino Cobra was undoubtedly fast in a straight line, its handling was a far cry from what you might expect from a high-performance vehicle. The suspension system, designed to give it a more comfortable ride, ended up being too soft for a muscle car of this caliber. The result was a car that felt sloppy, unsteady, and hard to control at high speeds. At the time, muscle cars were expected to offer thrills not just in terms of straight-line acceleration, but also in the corners. The Torino Cobra, unfortunately, was a car built for comfort rather than control, and its soft suspension made it feel unstable, especially during aggressive cornering or at higher speeds. The car's lack of handling prowess turned what should have been a thrilling driving experience into something much less exciting. Quality control, a nightmare for owners. To add insult to injury, the Torino Cobra was a victim of Ford's quality control issues. These problems went beyond just mechanical failures. Many owners reported that their cars arrived with poorly fitted panels, loose trim, and subpar craftsmanship. The lack of attention to detail on the factory floor resulted in a car that, while visually striking, had a number of fit and finish issues. For muscle car enthusiasts, the dream of owning a powerful American sports car was quickly soured by the realization that their vehicle was plagued by issues not just under the hood, but across its entire structure. This combination of poor build quality and mechanical fragility turned the Torino Cobra from a symbol of American engineering into a source of constant frustration. The cost of ownership, a burden too heavy. The sum of all these issues, the constant engine failures, the soft and inadequate suspension, and the poor build quality, meant that the Torino Cobra came with a heavy cost of ownership. What should have been an exciting and reliable performance machine instead became a car that demanded frequent repairs, expensive parts, and constant attention. Owners often found themselves replacing components far earlier than they should have, leading to a car that was as much a headache as it was a joy. Many owners, frustrated with the constant mechanical issues, opted to swap out the 7.0 V8 for something more reliable, or they simply abandoned the car altogether. Legacy, a muscle car that could have been. In the end, the 1970-1973 Ford Torino Cobra remains an oddity in the world of American muscle cars. A car that promised so much but ultimately delivered so little. Despite its powerful engine and striking visual appeal, it failed to live up to the standards set by its competitors. The Torino Cobra was a classic case of a muscle car that had the potential to be a star but was dragged down by mechanical failures, handling deficiencies, and subpar craftsmanship. As the years passed, the Torino Cobra became one of those cars that enthusiasts look back on with a mix of fascination and disappointment. It is remembered not as a success, but as a missed opportunity. The Hamilton 1975-1979 Chevrolet Monte Carlo 5.7L V8 stands as a stark reminder of how shifting regulations and poor engineering decisions can drain the soul from a once promising car. This model represents a time when the Monte Carlo, known for its sharp styling and muscular presence, took a step back in both power and handling, ultimately earning a reputation as one of the more underwhelming entries in the muscle car era. The emission struggle of power loss. The introduction of the 5.7L V8 during this period coincided with stricter EPA emissions regulations, which had a devastating impact on the car's performance. In an attempt to meet these new standards, Chevrolet significantly detuned the once promising engine, reducing it to just 145 horsepower and 250 lb of torque. In the muscle car world, where power was king, this was a massive disappointment. The Monte Carlo, which once promised exhilarating performance, now felt sluggish and uninspired. With the car's engine restricted, the 1975-1979 Monte Carlo transformed from a muscle car into a lackluster cruiser. It could no longer keep pace with its competitors, and what should have been a thrilling driving experience was marred by the lack of torque and acceleration. The 5.7L V8 was no longer the powerhouse it once was. Instead, it delivered a meager performance that left enthusiasts questioning the car's muscle car credentials. In handling woes, a boat on wheels. One of the biggest failures of the Chrysler Monte Carlo during this period was its handling, or rather, its lack thereof. The car, already built with a hefty frame, became even heavier with added comfort features and emissions-compliant components. Coupled with a poor suspension system, the car became more of a floating luxury sedan than the sharp, agile muscle car it was once known for. The combination of excessive weight and inadequate suspension meant that the Monte Carlo was ill-suited for high-speed cornering or precise handling. Instead of feeling like a performance vehicle, it handled more like a boat on wheels, with excessive body roll and an overall sluggish feel when navigating curves or even basic street turns. It was a far cry from the earlier, more responsive Monte Carlo models, and the once proud muscle car had become an uninspiring land yacht, suited more for highway cruising than any kind of spirited driving. Quality control issues, a car that fell apart. To add insult to injury, quality control was another area where the 1975-1979 Monte Carlo faltered. The air rust issues became one of the most talked about aspects of the car. The combination of subpar build quality and Chevrolet's failure to address common issues meant that many Monte Carlos started showing signs of rust after just a few years on the road. This issue wasn't confined to just the bodywork either. Interior wear was also prevalent. The once sleek interiors, which had been designed to offer comfort and luxury, quickly deteriorated, with seats becoming worn and trim falling off. As the Monte Carlo aged, these problems became even more pronounced. Engine problems. were not uncommon, with the engine struggling to maintain its power, and in some cases, even complete failures before the car reached its prime. In a time when American muscle cars were still expected to be reliable road warriors, the Monte Carlo's reputation for falling apart prematurely made it a poor choice for anyone looking for a long-term investment. The fall from glory. What was once a symbol of American muscle and style, the Chevrolet Monte Carlo, had slowly transformed into a car that was too slow, too clumsy, and too poorly built to live up to its previous glory. The Quaddy 1975-1979 model stands as a poignant reminder of the effects of federal regulations, corporate cost-cutting, and a failure to evolve in response to the changing market. Once a competitor to the likes of the Ford Torino, and Dodge Charger, it became a shadow of its former self, a tired and outdated vehicle that offered little in the way of excitement or reliability. The Buick Monte Carlo of this era remains a symbol of a time when the golden age of muscle cars was fading, unable to compete with the new wave of Japanese imports and the ever stricter demands of emission standards. As a result, it earned a reputation for being a lethargic, heavy and unreliable car, ultimately relegated to the past as a nostalgic yet disappointing piece of automotive history. The Cobra 1974 to 1977 Chrysler Imperial 7.20 V8 was meant to embody the height of luxury, a true flagship vehicle that would represent Chrysler's commitment to quality, power, and comfort. However, by the time the mid-70s rolled around, the Imperial was far from the luxurious, refined automobile it was intended to be. Instead, it became a symbol of automotive missteps, struggling to meet the standards expected of a top-tier vehicle. The engine, a powerhouse in name only, the 1.72L V8 engine, powering the Chrysler Imperial, was impressive on paper, boasting 230 horsepower and a 350 lb of torque. However, the reality behind the numbers was far less impressive. The engine, despite its size, was inefficient and thirsty. Fuel consumption was a major issue, with the V8 guzzling gas at an alarming rate, which didn't align with the growing demand for more economical vehicles during the oil crisis of the 1970s. Beyond fuel consumption, the Chrysler 7.20L V8 was prone to overheating, a frustrating problem that plagued many Imperial owners. This issue was particularly problematic given the car's massive size and weight, which put additional strain on the engine. Despite the considerable power figures, the car's performance failed to live up to expectations. The Imperial's driving experience was hampered by poor engine efficiency and a lack of refinement that made it feel less like a luxury vehicle and more like an oversized, underwhelming machine. The ride, floaty, and unrefined. The Chrysler Imperial's massive size should have equated to a grand, commanding presence on the road, but instead it made the car feel cumbersome and difficult to handle. The floaty ride was one of the Imperial's defining characteristics, and while it did provide a soft, comfortable experience, it was excessive to the point of being unrefined. The suspension, while designed to provide comfort, often gave the impression of driving a boat on wheels. The car's poor handling and unresponsive steering only added to the frustrating driving experience. The softness of the suspension failed to counterbalance the car's immense weight, resulting in a car that wallowed and swayed rather than glided gracefully over the road. Instead of the smooth, effortless luxury ride one would expect from a high-end flagship vehicle, the Imperial's soft suspension gave it a lack of control that detracted from its otherwise imposing size and presence. What was supposed to be a serene driving experience turned into a series of floaty, disjointed movements, making the car feel unwieldy at best. Electrical and build quality woes. Beyond the engine and suspension issues, the Chrysler Imperial was plagued by significant electrical problems that affected its functionality and reliability. In an era when electrical systems were becoming increasingly complex, the Imperial was caught between a luxury car's need for advanced tech and the realities of Chrysler's build quality at the time. From failing electrical windows to unreliable lighting systems, The Imperial's electronics were a consistent source of frustration for owners. Furthermore, the build quality of the Imperial was also less than stellar. While luxury vehicles typically excelled in precise craftsmanship, the Imperial Tons often suffered from poor panel gaps, cheap interior materials, and noticeable quality control issues. This was a stark contrast to the polished and refined vehicles that its competitors like Cadillac and Lincoln were producing during the same era. The soft, plush interior that should have been its selling point became a reminder of how the car's overall design and materials fell short of expectations. A legacy of disappointment. Despite its status as a luxury flagship, the 1977 Chrysler Imperial ultimately became known as a money pit, rather than a symbol of American luxury. Its performance, while decent on paper, was inefficient and prone to mechanical failures, with the 7.2L V8 engine unable to live up to its potential. The unrefined ride quality, combined with handling issues, meant that the driving experience was anything but luxurious. With the electrical failures and overall poor build quality, the Imperial quickly earned a reputation as a vehicle that would drain the wallet without delivering the expected premium experience. In the end, Chrysler's attempt at creating an automotive flagship had an unfortunate fate. By the time production was canceled, the Chrysler Imperial had earned a reputation for underperformance and reliability issues, becoming little more than a curious relic of an era when grand, luxury cars were often too big for their own good. Its name, once associated with opulence, is now mostly remembered for all the wrong reasons.